And welcome into episode 56 of the Level Flight podcast. We've got a full crew here today. Brian, Elliott, how are we doing?
We're doing well. It's the Marco Dano episode. we are here.
Yikes.
We're going to I'm fairly certain today might be a rant day with a few things. So
yeah.
We're doing good. I mean, yeah, like Brian said, I don't know if there's too much extra stuff we're going to talk about today. But yeah, should be a fun episode otherwise, but nope, should be good.
Yeah. The Jets, last time we recorded, they had won 5 straight. They had won 8 of their last 9. They were rolling, one of the best teams in the West. Now they've lost 2 straight. But for the game recaps, we've got to start with the Florida Panthers. A lot of people were saying this was the Jets' best game of the year. And kind of, Elliott, we were saying that Tampa game was the most entertaining the night before we recorded episode 55. But the very next game, the Jets shut out the Florida Panthers on the road. Definitely one of the most impressive performances of the year. Brian, what were your initial takeaways from the Jets shutting out the Panthers on the road?
So I had to watch it after because I worked through the entire game, which is upsetting because it's like it was proclaimed the best game of the year for them.
Right.
But no, like it's from what I could gather, it was one of those games where everything was kind of clicking. They got into the areas they needed to. Like a big example of that is the Niederreiter goal. Like he is in the middle of 4 guys there just banging away, and it's just he is exactly where you need him to be, and exactly that's just what he does. Like he's one of those guys that's not afraid to just insert himself into a situation where normally he's going to be outmatched. But you've got that, and then you have the complete opposite of that sort of grinded out goal, and you have that absolute beauty from Nikolai Ehlers. The little chip around the defender, cut in, roof it. Like that's just precisely what we're looking for out of Ehlers in terms of his talent level. Like, it's there, and seeing that, being, such a forefront, and unfortunately not even being the goal of the week. Because I think that went to Zach Benson, former Winnipeg Ice. Because I think was that his first career goal?
First career NHL goal. He went between the legs. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But no, back to the game. It just felt like a full team effort thing. And, having not seen it firsthand, I understand now why people were saying what they were about it at the time, where I was like, this is a really, really good game for the team.
Yeah, complete team performance. Really can't say much else other than that. I guess you can say Connor Hellebuyck obviously played really well. You got your goal. You got everything that Connor and I had talked about last week. You got goal scoring from different lines. You had a really good defensive performance, and then you had the thing that we had been talking about. You finally got a really good game out of Connor Hellebuyck, and so his numbers should be trending upwards. So that's, you can't really say after that game, you couldn't really say much else. The Jets were just rolling.
Yeah, they looked very, very good in this game. I will say one other individual I want to highlight. I wanted to highlight Ehlers, Hellebuyck. You guys both did. Dylan Samberg, maybe his best game of his career. Honestly, in this game against Florida, he had 2 assists, which for him is rare because he's so defensive minded that he rarely jumps up in the play. We've said that. We said we want to see him jump up in the rush more because he rarely does it. But he ends up with 2 assists, and his analytics were fantastic, as they usually are. And he was locking down Florida's top lines, best players, off the rush, off the cycle, didn't matter. He was outstanding defensively. You add in the 2 assists, and I think it was one of, if not his best game as a Winnipeg Jet of his young 2-year career. So just wanted to highlight Samberg. Let's move on to the Nashville game. Kind of a rough, just a weird game. Laurent Brossoit gets the start. A lot of people are going to point to that as the reason the Jets lost. Laurent Brossoit got the start. But I think they got mainly outplayed for the first 2 periods of this game. The third period, they came back, they made it a game. But the first 10 minutes of the first, you could argue the Jets jumped out to a good start. 0-0. UC Staros was great. And then goaltending was the difference at the other end with Brossoit. Elliott, what were your takeaways from the loss to Nashville on Sunday night?
I think my takeaways to the loss to Nashville are similar to my takeaways that I'll probably talk about when they played Dallas. It's a slow start, and we've noticed that doesn't matter what year this team is, doesn't matter which version 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of this core that we've seen, because there's been so many different versions. Whenever they have a bad start, it normally means they're not going to win the game, right? Like you can't, and that's for any team, but especially this one, you can't. Even though this team has shown that they can score goals and have all this talent, like you can't go down 3-0 into the third and score 3 and expect to win the game. Like they scored 2, they made it a game, which is good, but like you got to show up earlier than that. Like you can't just show up in the third and go, "Hi, we're here. Oh, it's 3-0. Okay, well we're just gonna try to go all out here and figure this out." Like. You can't. It's very difficult to do, and when you do, it's probably out of fluke. So, I mean, great. You got some offense. You got more offense from Cole Perfetti, which is good, right? But you got to show up earlier than that.
Yeah,
Brian.
and I think the thing is with me is I'm not blaming the loss on Brossoit. But at some point or another in one of his starts, like he's actually got to really take control here because even like obviously, yeah, you need the Jets to actually come out strong and goalies are going to look better if you're playing ahead. But I think in all but one of his starts this year, he has looked shaky at best. And I think that we're getting to a point here where I think the expectation of him coming in to help stabilize the workload on Hellebuck is starting to become it's called into question because I'll be real at this point. I don't know if I can look. I know it's early. He's only played 4 or 5 games at this point. He's allowed. 5. I think almost every game he's allowed 2 or more, but a lot of those games he's not facing that many shots. Like I know the game against Arizona. What did that end up being? Was that 5-2? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
It was like 2 goals on 18 shots. So the workload isn't much, but he's allowing just as many goals. And it's I'm worried that the deeper we get into the season, we're almost in December here. And the whole thing with bringing him in was he looked really good in Vegas after looking really good here. And we brought him back in hopes that he would be that stabilizing force to help take the load off of Hellebuck. And at this point, we're back into a rhythm where I only feel comfortable if Hellebuck's the starting goalie. And even then, that's been a little bit iffy this year. But he's finally looking a little bit more normal. But I'm not going to talk too much else about the game because my thoughts were similar to Elliott with playing from behind. And you can't just start the game, in the third period when you're already down. That it doesn't it's not beneficial to anyone. But the issue is when you're getting outplayed at some point or another, you need your goalie to step up and hold you in it. And we haven't seen that yet. And we're only just starting to really see it again from Hellebuck.
Yeah, I totally agree. And what Elliott and I talked about on last week's episode was why we were concerned a little bit with Hellebuck. Not really, but like a little bit was the expected goals against. The Jets were suppressing chances like among the NHL's elite. They were the number 1 team, if not top 5 at suppressing high danger chances at 5-on-5. And Hellebuck was still struggling, right? And this is the thing with Brossoit, like you said. He'll let in 3 goals, but it'll be on 21 shots. Or he'll let in 2 goals on 16 shots. Like, they're not facing these high danger, high volume shot totals. And they're still giving up 2 or 3 goals. And that was the thing with Hellebuck early in the season too. They would give up 4 or 5, and it would be on 18 to 20 shots. And that's just, you need better goaltending than that. Like you said, Hellebuck's starting to turn the corner, but Brossoit needs to put a few good starts together here because you can't get to a point like you were last year where you couldn't trust David Riddick down the stretch and Hellebuck played the last 16 games. That can't happen because you need Hellebuck to be fresh for the playoffs. This team looks to be a playoff team. They look to be a team that suppresses a lot of chances 5-on-5, especially defensively. And if you can't trust your goalie while being that team 5-on-5, that's an issue. But Hellebuyck's starting to turn the corner, and Brossoit should get a few more starts here. Maybe he gets Chicago on Saturday. Maybe he gets a game late next week when they head back on the road. I'm not sure, but yeah, I agree with you, Brian. He's got to put a start or two together here to regain some confidence. Unless you guys have
that's the
anything
thing.
else,
Like he's coming into his next starts here with an 877 save percentage.
Yeah,
and it seems to be getting it's holding or it's getting worse. Like, because it's like he's I don't know. Like he's allowed 15 goals against in 5 starts, so we're averaging 3 per, and it's just I'm not confident that I'm seeing enough, though, that like it's just like a couple flukes or anything. Like this is something that I'm worried about. So I haven't had a chance to look at the goal saved above expected or anything.
I'm looking right now.
Well,
I'm looking right now.
What is it?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so he is in total through 5 games, negative 4.2 goals saved above expected, but on a per 60 basis. So like all things being equal in terms of playing time, he is the 3rd worst goaltender in the NHL in goals saved above expected per 60, negative 0.832. Jack Campbell, who's no longer in the NHL because he was so bad that they sent him down, and Anton Forsberg of the Sens. Yeah. So that's the area that Laurent Brossoit is in right now. He's in the area of Jack Campbell, who got sent down to the minors because he was playing.
Even if you get like average goldtending from him, the team looks so much better in front of him.
Yeah.
Like if you get like an average goaltending performance, they might even win that game. Yeah, like it's. I feel like we were having this discussion too, where it was like at some point or another, even average is fine. You just can't be this bad.
Yeah.
Right.
We have the same exact discussion with Riddick last year, where we said you just have to be average, just don't be bad.
And he was not.
And we had the same discussion with the Oilers goaltenders, and they sent one of them down to the minors. Like that's where Laurent Brossoit's at right now. But we had the same discussion. If the Oilers could get a save, which they're starting to, and we'll get into that when we preview the upcoming schedule because they've won 3 straight, they're going to be just fine. And they're starting to get some saves, and they're looking just fine.
And we talk about it all the time. Goaltending is very finicky. Like I think Brossoit, as much as the Nashville game wasn't great, I didn't get a chance to watch the game, but all I heard was that like. And some of the stuff I've seen, it just doesn't seem he's getting bounces to go his way when he's in net. And I get it. The Jets are suppressing high danger chances. Most of the time, those high danger chances, if they get scored on, you don't really blame the goalie because it's kind of hard to make a stop in a high danger chance. It just also seems like he's not making a save on stuff he should be. Like there's lots of times where I've been seeing like the Arizona game, there was one of the goals I was seeing there and I'm like really, like you need to make that. Like I don't want to pull up the Connor Hellebuyck would have made that save, but like it's getting to the point where even an average goaltender should be making that save. Like just make a save.
And I think he'll be just fine. I think he's going through like one of the worst 5-game stretches of his career right now, and he'll obviously bounce back. He's proven it
since he left Edmonton.
He's proven it in a system that suppresses high danger chances like Vegas. Right? Like people will point to, Vegas, kind of inflates goalies' numbers because the way they block shots and suppress chances. Well, the Jets are doing the same thing. So I think he'll be just fine. He just needs 1 or 2 good starts to maybe get some confidence back under his belt. But let's move on to the Dallas game. This is fresh in our memory. They lost 2-0 last night. You'll be hearing this Thursday. They're playing the Oilers tonight. But 2 nights ago, Dallas lost 2-0. What were your guys' initial takeaways? I mean, obviously the Jets miss on the 2 5-on-3s, which we're going to get to maybe later on in the episode, or maybe it'll just happen right now. But yeah, there's the hockey stat card just for a deeper analytical look on what happened in this one. First, I'll go first. I know this is like convenient timing because he's at the top of the list, but I genuinely thought Mark Scheifele had a great game last night. Especially when Nikolai Ehlers got bumped up to that line. It seemed like they were creating a good chance every time on their shift. And he said in the post game something like, yeah, the first shift wasn't great, but then the next one we generated a good chance. And then the third one we generated a few chances. And then the fourth one, like he just said, they kept building on every shift. That's exactly what you want to see. I don't know if that line stays the same because Gabriel Velarde might be coming back into the lineup very soon here. But I thought Mark Scheifele played great. Kyle Connor, we've talked about what like he's scoring all these goals. Now he has 1 goal in his last 6 games. That's pretty concerning. Sorry. And Dylan Sandberg continues to impress. I'll let you guys, before I talk about the entire roster, I'll let you guys go. Brian, what were your takeaways from this one?
Well, my thing was, as you said, that little line bump, I think that did more than just sort of make other things look better at the time. I think it gave us a little bit of a look into what we might expect to see with Velarde. I don't know if you can see, but for the last several games, right down near the bottom of that list there, Alex Iafallo, he has been struggling. And I honestly think that him getting bumped off that top line in a losing effort like this, I think it was, I'm not going to say deserved, because like he's done his best. Like he's not the top offensive guy. That's the thing. Like he was put
Right.
there as a stopgap until things got better. But I think the biggest thing is we're seeing it more that he's not that guy as of late. With keeping up and creating and driving play, it's just not happening. And I think that moving him initially, they dropped him right down to line 4 and then moved him back up to the second line in name only based on minutes. With Nemesnikov and Perfetti, and then Ehlers got the bump up. With their reluctance to move Ehlers to that top group with Connor and Scheifele over the last few years, I think that's the Velarde spot. That it's just they just needed to get through it in the rest of the game, and then they'll reevaluate going into the game against Edmonton. But I think that rather than putting someone who hasn't had that shot yet on the top line and get an extended look there, you saw a guy that will regularly be the bump, essentially.
Yeah. And I didn't mind the Connor, Scheifele, Ehlers move in the third period. And I actually love going to that, like love the Jets going to that as an option in a game, especially where you're not generating much offense, you don't have a goal, and you need one. I think that's like the perfect line. It's like, okay, if they score, game's probably over anyways, which Dallas did late, and they won 2-0. So we're going to load up our top line with our 3 best offensive players, and we're going to let them do damage in the offensive zone, and just like they need to generate offense, and they did.
That's like the
works.
reason they should be together. Like it shouldn't be like a game in, game out basis. And I think that you've made a great point there where maybe that is finally the turning point too for Ehlers, where for so long getting those minimal minutes down the stretch when they need chances, him getting the bump there when they need it the most. I think that shows a bit of growth there. But I also think, though, that is exactly what it needs to be. And that's a load up your top line, because if you do that for an extended period of time, they're going to give back so much on defense. And it wouldn't be the best thing to do in the long run. But I think what you said, though, was perfect, where it's like, we need the offense, load it up. Let's go.
Yeah. And last thing on this point, we're going back to Nashville now, but Cole Perfetti's minutes actually went up in the third period. And that was something we talked about earlier in the season, that like when he was getting benched late in games when they were losing, I think it was you, Elliott, that said like, all right, that's fine. But if we're down a goal, you got to play him more. Like it's got to be, you can't have it both ways, right? In the Nashville game, he did actually get played more down the stretch. This game, Nikolai Ehlers, the same thing. He got played more down the stretch when the Jets were down a goal. I just think that's the right move, is playing your offensive players the most amount of minutes down the stretch. I think it's a great move, and it worked in this one. It just, the results didn't really follow. Yeah. I don't know if there's much else to really say about that game, Elliott. You can.
Well, it's like I had said about the Preds game. They started too slow. Like I like that's my other thing. They didn't generate enough offense until the third, and that was once they loaded up the top line and they decided, hey, we need to actually figure out how to do the thing that's part of this sport that we play and score a goal. Like that's the problem that I have with the last couple of games with this, like the last 2 games with this team. They're waiting until, like, I'm sitting there. I watched the entire game last night, and first period kind of comes and goes. Okay, didn't really do much, but Dallas didn't really do much either. Second period, Dallas generated a lot of chances. Jets felt like they were on the back foot. And then the third period, they come out, and it's this huge, grand, like, first 5 minutes, it's boom, 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 chance. And it's like, okay, like, where was that, like, 40 minutes ago? That's the part that I don't get. I don't understand if this team hasn't figured it out yet. I'm not going to say it's an effort thing because we've seen them show effort. Now I'm starting to think it might be a mindset thing. I don't know what it is with this team, but it seems to be when they have the mindset and you notice the mindset is there as soon as the game starts. You know how I hate being that person, but I can pretty much predict kind of how a Jets game is going to go based on the first like 4 shifts or like the first couple shifts from the first couple lines that come out. And that's not a joke. Like the Jets sometimes come out and they're firing on all cylinders. I'm like, okay, at least if they're going to lose tonight, they're going to put up some offense and it's going to be good. But when they come out like they have the last couple games where it's kind of like, we're just here, we're hanging out, like we're kind of playing this slow, methodical game, then that's where I kind of go, okay, they're going to be losing in the third period. And look what happened. They were losing in the third period, back-to-back games. And it's, all right, we got to score. And now we're going to turn it up. And it's like, okay, well, you can't do that. If you did that 40 minutes ago in the first period, you might be up 2-0 right now. Or it might be tied at 2-2, right? Like you're in a better position. So I just feel like sometimes this team with either sometimes depending on the way that either that they play or the mindset that they have, it boxes them into kind of where the result of the game is going to go. And if they just, and I know this, and this happens at all levels of any sport. If you just come out and attack your opponent, there's a better chance you're going to get a leg up earlier on in the game. And I think the Jets are at their best when they are attacking and they are full frontal, like all in from the get-go. When they do that, I will say right now they are one of the top 5 teams, maybe not in the league, but they're at least a top team in the West when they come out and attack like that. But they are a fringe playoff team when they come out and do what they've done the last 2 games.
Yeah.
Like,
and
that's just how it is.
And Rick Bowness after the game alluded to that, saying like, you know, if to get Dallas out of their defensive structure that makes them so good, you have to make them chase and play with the lead instead of chasing the game the whole time, which they ended up doing. And Rick Bowness, like I said, all 3 of these games that we just covered, he's back.
He's back.
Great to see him back with the team. Jets social media posted some really awesome videos of him, you know, hugging the players, reintroducing himself to the guys, to the team that has been without him for over a month. Scott Arniel, the team did great in Rick Bowness's absence. Scott Arniel, hat tip to you. He did a great job. And now Rick Bowness is back. Everyone loves to see that. Did you guys have any thoughts on Rick Bowness being back? That was just nice to see. And he said, I will say for context, he said Judy Bowness is doing about as well as they could have hoped right now. And he is, what did he say? He said he feels comfortable leaving her for a few hours to go to a practice or a game, which makes him able to coach the team now. And he was still in contact with Scott Arniel, coaching the team from behind the scenes, even when he wasn't officially behind the bench. But it's good to see that Judy Bowness is doing well enough to where Rick can come back and that they're doing better altogether.
I think the biggest thing for me is the knowledge that, you know, Judy Bowness is doing better. And I think that's the key here is team success, whatever's happening, that's a total side point because the biggest thing is he had to be there for his family. He was able to do that. And now it's such a good sign that he feels comfortable enough that he can come back because, you know, it must have been incredibly difficult for him and his family. So I think it's a really, really good sign to see him back behind the bench and that his confidence level in the situation is where it is.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Great to have Rick Bowness back in the building around the team. One of the most well-respected people across the entire league. And it's great to see Judy Bowness doing as well as they could have hoped per Rick Bowness. Let's take a break. We'll get into some more Jets topics when we come back, but we're going to hear a word from DraftKings and Raycon, and we will be right back. So stick around.
It may be too early to start decorating for the holidays, but it's never too early to start your holiday shopping. Why not take care of it now before the crowds and packed calendars make shopping a total nightmare, especially when you can get some of the best deals of the season well before Black Friday. You can shop Raycon products now and save up to 50% off because their early Black Friday sale is going on right now. You've heard us talk about Raycon's products before, several times on this podcast, and Raycon made a name for themselves in the audio space. Their products like the Everyday Earbuds, known for delivering high quality and thoughtful features, just a 32-hour battery life and a perfect in-ear fit for all-day wear and lasting comfort. And this past year, they expanded their entire business with the introduction of Raycon Home and Raycon Power Tech. Their 5-star reviewed Magic 180 cable allows you to charge iOS, micro USB, and USB Type-C devices 8 times faster with 100-watt power delivery. Their faucet filter ultra filters the water in your tap against chlorine and heavy metals. It's a must-have for ensuring the water you use to wash your face and brush your teeth is, actually clean. Raycon is known for delivering high quality and thoughtful features at half the price of other premium tech brands. It's no wonder their products have racked up tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. To get everyone the holiday shopping spirit a bit early, Raycon is currently offering 20% off everything on their site, with select products up to 50% off. So beat the crowds and save now. Trust me, you do not want to miss out on Raycon's early Black Friday sale. Hurry now to buyraycon.com/THPN to get 20 or 50% off site-wide. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to score up to 50% off Raycon products. Buyraycon.com/THPN. Bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. After the Jets have gone on this little run here, did you know they're still plus 750 to win the Central Division? Something to think about for sure. Download the app now and use code THPN. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That's code THPN, only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, licensee partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2023, all rights reserved.
And welcome back into episode 56 of the Level Flight podcast. We said we were going to dive into more of the power play talk, and it's here. The Jets miss on 2 5-on-3s in the Dallas game. Both Nino, Niederreiter, Mark Scheifele, and Rick Bowness all said that was the game. That's where they lost. The game was on those 2 5-on-3s that they failed to convert on. And it's not only that they failed to convert, it's the way that they failed to convert. They just didn't really look dangerous whatsoever. Brian, I'll let you take the first word on this one. What did you make of the way the Jets handled their 5-on-3s last night against Dallas? Getting ready.
I'm going to start by saying you can literally watch any NHL game when there's a 5-on-3 and do exactly as that does, and the Jets probably convert on one of their chances. The rule of thumb here is you don't run the same power play that you run 5-on-4, 5-on-3. You don't have to run it through the umbrella at the top because they're still running it through Morrissey at the top of the circles. You don't do that because that allows the Dallas defenders to just stay in one spot because if you're just going to move around them, why would they move? And So literally all they needed to do to make that look a little bit better was run it from below the goal line, because then that draws the defenders in, leaving more room for a guy like Connor or Scheifele to actually come in and take a shot. Because with what you're doing, you're allowing them to stay further out and keeping you further away from Ottinger. If you bring it in close, you can then actually allow them to move around a little bit. I swear Ottinger didn't move at all during the power plays. He was just able to stand there and just make straight on saves. And I feel like it shouldn't be this difficult to adapt to a different power play when you have an extra 2 guys. It's not rocket science. Just don't have the other guy. It makes it look like Dallas had the 4th player still. When you have a power play, utilize the advantage. It's the whole thing. It's a man advantage. And if it's a 2-man advantage, you should do even better. And they didn't. And I know that Brad Lauer is the power play. He runs it, I think. I honestly think that there needs to be some sort of conversation had and a lot of film to be watched of other teams and how they run a 5-on-3, because I honestly think that in the last 2 years too, because I feel like we've had this discussion before, Jets 5-on-3, you might as well just not have to worry at all. It feels like a constant.
And yeah, the biggest thing that you alluded to there that's stuck with me is the umbrella staying the same, and the lack of movement that went with that was my biggest issue. Going to the umbrella, okay, you don't want to switch it up, fine, but just all standing there and looking for the one seam pass to Kyle Connor over and over again just makes no sense. I said it didn't make sense at 5-on-4 when they went through their massive power play slump, and they went away from it, and their power play has actually been really good since November 1st. They stuck with it on the 5-on-3. They went back to that. I don't understand that whatsoever. And this is what makes it even more frustrating. I tweeted out yesterday that since November 1st, the Jets have the 2nd best power play in the West. They trail only Vancouver. Vancouver's at 32%. The Jets were at 27.3% or something like that, which is great. That's a really good power play, especially for the Winnipeg Jets. I don't think they've ever had a power play finish the season at 27%. Maybe their teams back in the day with Line, but I don't get it, because their power play has been great at 5-on-4, and then at 5-on-3 you almost go back to the bad habits that put you in the slump in the first place, which is Scheifele on the half wall, waiting, thinking, no movement, forced in the seam pass, not there, cleared. And it was just constant. It was just replaying that movie over and over again, and it cost them the game. There's no way to sugarcoat it. You miss on 2 5-on-3s, that cost you the game. They lost 2-0, but both 5-on-3s came when it was 1-0. Or I guess the first one came when it was 0-0, so they could have taken the lead. And then the second one, I think, came when they were down. So you could have tied the game or taken the lead at any point with these 2-man advantages that you did not generate one high danger look on. They did not have one good look on these power plays. But yeah, Elliott.
Yeah. It was just, oh my God, it was infuriating. My favorite part is to get the 5-on-3. I check my phone. I see a bunch of tweets. Shout out Carter Brooks. He goes, "This is the TSN turning point." The Jets then don't convert. They concede. And Carter Brooks then tweets and quote, I don't remember if it was a reply or a quote tweet. He then goes, "Never mind." You shoot. This is exact. And I tweeted about it last night. I said, this is what you get for twiddling your thumbs on the power play and kind of just going, well, you know what? We could just waste time for fun and just kind of stand here. Mark Scheifele recently, and when they were in the slump, I think the biggest thing is, yes, Kyle Connor is standing there at the circle waiting for a one-timer. Fine. He can stand there. That's fine. He'll draw attention. But guys like Josh Morrissey and Mark Scheifele, as much as Mark Scheifele had a good game last night, he was terrible on those 5-on-3s. He does not look like a threat at all. He stands there. He's either looking for the seam pass. He's not even looking to shoot. He's looking for the seam pass. And if he's got nothing, it's back to Morrissey. And those three just play hot potato and don't do anything. But I think Mark Scheifele needs to actually, like, I get it. You want to feed Kyle Connor. You've been getting a bunch of assists to him. Fine. I understand it. But at some point, like, you scored 40 goals last year. You need to have some sort of instinct to shoot the puck. Because right now, it's the funniest. I know I'm going to make a basketball analogy here, but it's like going and double teaming the shooter and leaving the non-shooter wide open, and the non-shooter is like, oh, there's nobody within 15 feet of me. I could shoot this, and instead passes into a double team and turns over the puck. Like that's essentially what it is. Like, he's throwing a seam pass to Kyle Connor, which everyone knows is coming, and it's tip, puck battles around for a while, and they flip it out, right? Like, I think Connor and we talked about weeks ago when we were talking about this issue about they need to move it down below the goal line, move it around the net. Like, I think they did that in the last 15 seconds of the second 5-on-3. Like, Scheifele passed it to Iafallo twice, and that was it. But then Iafallo, I think Iafallo threw an across to Kyle Connor, who was streaking in. Great. That's a chance generated, right? At least you're looking for something different. They aren't doing anything different. And I don't think, as much as I think system has a thing to do with it, I don't think it really does, because it's the three at the top in that umbrella system just pass the puck. We've seen them move it around and score in different ways. And they tried different players on that power play last night. They tried Perfetti. They had a Iafallo. They threw Niederreiter in there. Like, it just didn't. I don't think personnel has to do it either. It has to do with decision making, and their decision making has not been smart when they've been in a slump, or it seems to be on 5-on-3s. Like, the whole point of 5-on-3. Yeah, go ahead.
What makes it even worse is the fact that their 5-on-4 power play has been the opposite of that for the past month. They've been decisive. They've been giving different looks. Josh Morrisby's been shooting from the point, and Mark Scheifele deflects one against Tampa Bay, right? Like, their power play has been good and giving teams different looks and not being indecisive, and just standing there on the wall and forcing the one seam pass. And then you get a 5-on-3, you just go right back to it. It's infuriating, to say the least, and it's the way that they lost this game. Mark Scheifele, even after the game, was talking about how, we got the seam pass a few times, and it's like, well, I don't know if you should really be looking for it, because everyone knows you want the seam pass. It's like Line back when they had Line on the power play, everyone knew you were trying to get that one timer to Line. So what was kind of a sneaky option is when Blake Wheeler would come down the wall and feed it into Mark Scheifele at the bumper, and he would just shoot it right over the blocker and score, because there's a guy stapled to Patrick Laine's hip, right? Even on the 5-on-3, like, Kyle Connor's being covered pretty well, because everyone knows, like, he's one of the best goal scorers in the league. They know you're trying to force that seam pass. Working the puck to the point, down low.
And even to your point about the Mark Scheifele at the bumper, the other thing too was there was still puck movement, because then it would still get to Laine, because then Scheifele would then either back pass it or throw it, or just pretend like he was going to take it and he'd just let it go over his stick, and it would still get to Laine, and it would confuse people. There's still puck movement. I think that's the biggest thing that people need to understand is when they're in a slump, there is no puck movement. It's not like they just are getting goalied and they just can't score and they're getting unlucky. It's they are shooting themselves in the foot by doing that. And you know what? They deserve to get scored on like 30 seconds after that, because they didn't deserve to generate anything.
Yeah, I agree. It was tough. And it's the way they lost this game, and they got to fix it going forward, because you can't just do this with 5-on-3s. You can't, especially against Dallas. Like I was about to say, especially against teams where you got to get these points. You've now lost 2 games to Dallas, start the year, both at home. So now you've either got to beat them on the road, which is a tough play to play. Dallas is a tough play to play. Or you just lose every game to Dallas, and those points are huge at the end of the season for a team that you're likely fighting for home ice advantage with in the first round. Like, a lot can change right now, but it looks as though Colorado's going to be the 1 seed. They're unbelievable. And then Dallas and Winnipeg are fighting for home ice in the first round of the playoffs. That's just what it looks like. Yeah. Yes. Dallas can go on a run and be the 1 seed, or the Jets can maybe go on a run and be the 1 seed, but in all likelihood, these games against Colorado and Dallas are really going to matter, and you've already lost 2. and we're not even in December yet. So that 5-on-3 needs to change. But the power play has been good as of late, which is a weird sentence to say. But yeah, let's move on. Last year we did this a few times. We want to do it again this year. A Moose update. The Manitoba Moose. It's been an interesting start to the year, to say the least. They've had goaltending issues, and that's probably a massive understatement. They've had Colin Delia, they've had a Scary Salmonen, they've had Thomas Milic come up and play a few games, and they just can't get a save from anyone, to be honest. Some bright spots on the team. Nikita Chibrikov is their leading scorer with 17 points in 16 games. He's got 8 goals, 9 assists. Kyle Capobianco is almost a point a game. Brad Lambert, 14 points in 16 games. Chaz Lucius has 8 points in 10 games. He missed a few games with a concussion. That's why his game total is lower. But yeah, I'm just going to roll through these. I'm not even going to go goalie by goalie. I'm just going to go with the team goalie stats. Goals against average 3.82, save percentage 0.863. That's 863. That is unbelievably bad. And you can see why they're struggling. I think they're still hovering around 500. The record, they might be a few games under, but man, their goaltending has been a problem. Have you guys been keeping up with the Moose? Kind of keeping tabs, Elliott?
I've been keeping a little bit more tabs this year just because there's more prospects, there's more players. I mean, my biggest thing I think is it's so weird. Like, I think their best performer was Thomas Milic, and he had one start, 2 games where he came in relief, it was 2 starts, 2 games where he came in relief. One of his starts was pretty decent. The other one was really bad. And then both of his relief appearances were terrible. And then they sent him down. He looked like the most, like if you were going to go roll with a goalie right now, I would have rolled with Milic, 1, because of higher ceiling, and 2, he's looked like the better goalie. Salmonen hasn't looked great, and Delia hasn't looked great either. So,
which is weird because Delia has been a great AHL goalie in the past.
Yeah.
For mainly the Abbotsford Canucks, I guess, if he was with Vancouver. But I remember looking at his AHL stats and thinking that's pretty good. And now, yeah, like you said, his save percentage is 860. Thomas Milic, the best goaltender on the Jets with an 8 or on the Moose. Sorry, it's early. On the Moose with an 877 save percentage and a 374 goals against.
Yeah,
like that's the best. That's your best option.
Yeah, but he's been and here's the other thing. He's been the one that's made a couple saves for them.
Right.
Like he has made the saves, but he's just and it's hilarious. He goes down to the ECHL and his next game is a shutout. Like I know goalies are weird, but like that's just really weird. Like you play average to below average in the AHL. You drop down one level and it's nope, shutout. Like can't beat me. Like I don't know, but
it's crazy.
The goaltending has been really weird. I want to make short point. Nikita Chibrikov. I know we had talked over the summer, Connor and I, with Murad Atesh of the Athletic about if there was an injury to a skill player who would get the call up, and we talked about it being like a Brad Lambert or most likely a Chaz Lucius because he's older and that sort of thing. I am now starting to think with how this season has gone for him. I'm thinking now that it might be the Jets deciding to go with Nikita Chibrikov. Like he looks ready. I know he won't play this year, most likely, but I definitely do think that he gets an opportunity, a good look in training camp next year already. And I think that he has a chance to potentially be either hoping not an extra forward because that would just really hurt his development. But I do really think that he could be a part of the roster some point very soon. Like he has looked ready to go for the AHL, and not to say that Brad Lambert hasn't looked good and that Lucius hasn't, but Chibrikov has been healthy. He's looked consistent, and he is putting up points. So that's kind of my analysis.
Brian, what are your thoughts on the start to the season for the Moose?
I feel like we've had the same discussion like the last 3 years where it's like the Moose have a great roster, but their goaltending is just abysmal. Like we're back to the point where we're looking at the same levels of goaltending when they were rotating through Mikhail Burden, Evan Cormier, and Arvid Holm. We really should be seeing some sort of difference here, but we're not, and it is ultimately costing games. And you want these guys to play on good teams, but it's got to be just really, really tough to be playing, because a lot of these guys are playing really, really well and then they're losing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And like the thing is too, where it's like, obviously it's a developmental league and the wins and the losses ultimately don't matter as long as the players are developing. But it does a lot for a young guy to be a part of like an AHL playoff run, just to, really feel the intensity of, playoff hockey. You're seeing a guy like Chibrikov. As you said, Elliott, I don't think he makes an appearance this year unless everything goes haywire. But getting him into a playoff run with how he plays and some of his physicality and his intensity and his goal scoring, like that could be an unreal moment for him. And with the goaltending that the Moose have, that doesn't look like a reality. So they need to turn it around to actually get some additional success here. But I think in terms of the personal success, we're seeing a lot of those young guys where obviously now that he's getting healthy and he's back in the lineup, Chaz Lucius has 8 points in 10 games. Like, we're seeing things pay dividends here, and it's nice to see. I just want to see them do that and then get rewarded with it with team success.
Yeah, I agree. And the biggest thing, the goaltending, the playoffs, like getting into the playoffs, I brought it up probably all too often last year, and I'm gonna bring it up again. But John Tortorella has that one quote, and I'm gonna cling to it for the rest of time. But he had that one quote where he was talking about how when he coached in the AHL, they developed their players more in their 2-week stretch of their playoff run than they did their entire season. Like that's where the development was in the playoffs. And it's just so key, like you said, Brian, for these young players to experience playoff hockey this young in their career. And the Jets prospects, I guess. Nikita Chibrikov, over a point a game. Lambert is just under a point a game. Lucius is just under a point a game. And need I remind people that Cole Perfetti was like just under a point a game as a AHL player. And now we see he's just under a point a game as an NHL player. To see these guys racking up points like this, especially Brad Lambert. Last year in the AHL, he was not good. He did not look ready for the structured style of play, for the pro style of play. Now he's playing at center. He's near a point a game. He has more flashes of brilliance every single game. I think that's the biggest thing for me is Brad Lambert's ability to play in structure, put up points, and play at center. I mean, that's a huge organizational shift. If Brad Lambert is able to develop and be a center at the pro level, that's huge. And he was on Winnipeg Sports Talk a few weeks ago, and he talked about his move to center and how much that's helped him and how he feels natural playing that position. So that's good for him, and that the development is really, really interesting to track, especially when you look at Cole Perfetti's numbers and what he put up and how all these guys are now putting up similar numbers. It's going to be fun to watch the next couple of years. That's for sure. Anything else on the Moose? No. Yes. No. I see heads shaking.
Concerns and questions I have. That kind of exhausted them there. So,
okay, let's move on. We're time for the weekly segment. What did the NHL do wrong this week? Once a week, we got to bring up something the NHL did wrong because they give us lots to talk about on this segment. Brian, I will start with you, and I think I know where you're going to start. You're going to start in Minnesota with a certain goaltender.
Yes. This is something that I've been just like seething about ever since it happened, because this is the second time we've seen it this year, where the NHL has these weird rules about what can and cannot be worn in warmups. And we saw it already. I can't remember which goalie it was, but they wanted to have a Hockey Fights Cancer mask to wear, and they weren't allowed. And
it was Logan Thompson. I could be wrong though.
Yes. Yes, it was. Yeah. And then this last week, Marc-Andre Fleury had a beautiful Indigenous painted mask for their theme game, and his wife is Indigenous, so he wanted to honor her. The league said, you can't do that. And he goes, well, what if I do? And essentially they said, we'll fine you and the team. He wore it anyways, and nothing happened. And essentially like, oh, we'll get you next time. But this is not the second time. Like they have zero, like I'm not saying like that they should be, enforcing it like at all. Like I think that it's totally fine that if a goalie wants to wear a mask that, honors, their, something personal to them, go right ahead. Like I have a lot of respect for Elliott Friedman, Friedge on this pod, but he had a tweet that I did not, or like a comment on the 32 Thoughts podcast I didn't understand, where it was like the NHL trying to stop a slippery slope of putting, bad things on a mask, acting like Thomas Greiss didn't have a literal SS on his mask and was banned from the German Hockey Federation, or Robin Lehner having a picture of quote unquote his guy, Donald Trump, on his mask during the 2016 presidential race. Like this, like taking this weird strong point now against things that are legitimately good, like honoring your wife, like
or hockey fights
someone
cancer.
Do that.
Which is one of their initiatives. It's their initiative.
But they're not. Like, they can't even wear the jersey anymore.
Yeah.
Like, we're getting to a point now, and I loved. This is from the Pride tape debacle where Dermott ended up using it, and then the whole ban got reversed. Where Matt Dumba came out and also wasn't fined because the league would look real stupid if they did. He came out and said, and I quote, why did they have to do that in the first place? You'll never get the answers from them. You'll never get the answers for that. That's just something I've come to understand. They don't have answers for a lot of things they do. They just follow and try and save face. And that is precisely what we've seen here again. But like, I understand that their whole idea of, trying to appease the masses is what they think they're trying to do. But because of like 4 or 5 guys coming out and saying they didn't want to partake in a theme night for Pride Night, and then turning this around and being like, if you wear anything themed, we're going to threaten to fine you, but then not actually fine you, but we're going to threaten you for sure. It's such a horrible look for a league that's they're still trying to claim that it's for everyone. Meanwhile, they're like, we have zero backbone whatsoever, and we're going to try and stop people from wearing things that have zero harm whatsoever. Then not follow through with any sort of threats because they know they're in the wrong.
Yeah, it's all these empty threats. It makes no sense, and it's exactly like the Pride tape, and it's hilarious because the way it unfolded on Twitter was so funny. There's the video of Marc-Andre Fleury, and I believe it was Michael Russo, who covers the Wild, tweeted out saying, "Beautiful mask," and then he included at the end of the tweet, "Well, the NHL won't let him wear it because they'll fine him." And then everyone freaks out and is like, "Whoa, why won't they let him wear it?" And then, like, 3 hours,
by the way.
Yeah, like, 3 hours later, I think Russo tweets, it says, I per a source, Fleury's going to wear it anyways, but then the Wild the NHL threatened with even bigger fines. And then is like, okay, is he going to wear it? Like, the NHL is just going to keep upping the amount they're going to fine a guy for wearing his own mask, honoring his Indigenous wife. Like, what are we doing here? And then he wears it anyways, and there's no fine. What are we doing here? Like,
so
you threaten to fine him, then you threaten to up the fine, then he does it anyways, and you just say, "Oh, okay, you were right, you got it." Like, what are we doing? Like, just take away the stupid rule in the first place. Just like the Pride tape, it's like you say, "Oh, Pride tape, no one can wear it anymore." Travis Dermott puts 3 lines of Pride tape at the shaft, the top end of his stick, that you can barely even see. You wouldn't be able to see it on the TV unless someone's super zoomed in with a $3,000 lens. And you go, "Oh, someone did it. Never mind. We're going to take it away. We're not going to fine you. You got it." Like, Matt Dumba is so correct
challenge
on his good. Like, it makes
sense. My favorite part of that whole thing was Fleury was only going to wear it for warm up. And I think he was only going to wear it for warm up in the first place. Then the NHL...
He only did wear it for warm up. I don't think he wore it in the game.
As far as I'm aware, he wore it the entire game because they I thought they upped the fine. Either way, my favorite part was Russo tweeted like 20 minutes before puck drop saying that Fleury's been told he's going to get fined. Fleury doesn't care and he's going to wear it.
Yeah.
He literally Fleury was told you will be fined if you're going to wear it. And he said, "Okay, fine. I'm just going to wear it. I don't care."
Yeah.
Love it. It's so this is so stupid. I don't get it.
And it's funny how the players are aware of kind of how spineless the NHL is.
It's like Connor Bedard.
Like they know.
His first game didn't even wear a bucket in warm up, and he got fined. He didn't care. Like a fine isn't going to stop anybody. That's when I understand. Like goalies, the whole thing. Goalies can't wear anything creative with their gear for the most part, right? Like the mask is their way of expressing who they are and everything. So I would understand if the NHL wants to ban or wants to fine players for if there's a derogatory term or there's an emblem or something that isn't politically correct in the current landscape of the world on their mask. I'm not going to use which ones. You can think of whatever you want in your head. Totally fine. Totally get it. That is where you should be fining and banning players, right? Or saying you have to now wear a blank mask for X amount of games because you've done this, right? Like something like that. Taking away privileges.
You've lost mask privileges.
Like common sense should kick in though. Like you're right. Like, you can have the rule in place that you can't have any, specialty masks with any kind of emblem or anything, which is what they were enforcing.
That's derogatory. That I would say is derogatory. Or negative in thing.
Well, what they were enforcing for the Fleury thing was, there's a specialty mask. You have certain logos, certain words on it, and that's a no. That's just flat out a no. Same thing with the Pride tape. Anything but regular tape is a no. Pride, whatever. Like, no. You can't wear it or whatever. Whatever. Like, yeah, I don't know. But then you just go back on it, and it's just like you can have that rule in place, but maybe just use some common sense when it comes to it. Especially with the Logan Thompson hockey fights cancer thing. Oof. I mean, who are you protecting with that one? Who are you appeasing to the I love cancer crowd? Like, what are we like? What? Like, yeah, that's a crowd we really want to protect in our game. Hockey's for everyone, especially the people that love cancer. Great work, NHL. Way to go. Like, what a joke. What a joke.
I don't understand any of these. Like, I
man. Oh,
escape of the world. It's like right. Like it's a hard place to live in currently. It's hard to figure out what you want to be politically correct, right? And that's what the NHL is trying to do. They're trying to be politically correct, but with the way that they're doing things, they're trying to get themselves canceled. Like they're actively avoiding getting canceled, but they are getting canceled in the process because they don't know how to avoid all the landmines. They can't figure it out. And as bad as it is, and as much as I want to scream into this mic about it, I just sit there and laugh because it's just so comical that they just can't figure it out.
And if NHL they just does it again.
Common sense. Yeah, if they just use common sense, they'd figure out that tape doesn't mean bleep, and a mask that should be that is promoting good things and has
promoting a themed night. Promoting a themed night ran by an NHL organization.
But it's not even that.
The starting goalie honoring his wife. Like, what are we doing here?
And this positive is that, but my thing is it has no negative connotation whatsoever. There's no negative here.
It's a theme night. The team is running the theme night. Same with the Hockey Fights Cancer. The Winnipeg Jets are running.
The league is running that.
The league gives the teams the go-ahead to run a Hockey Fights Cancer theme night, but then the goalie can't wear a mask. That's Hockey Fights Cancer. Oh, makes no sense. I think we gotta wrap this up before we. Yeah, I'm sweating over here. This is getting hostile. NHL gets me fired up on a Wednesday morning. Oh man. Before we get out of here, we do want to preview the upcoming schedule for the Jets. They've got a few Connors coming to town. The Edmonton Oilers, don't look now, but they have won 3 straight games. Their most recent win coming against Vegas last night, Tuesday night, in a shootout. this is now a tough game. Like we said a few weeks ago that the Oilers, they got to turn it around at some point, and it seems that though they have. Connor McDavid has like 12 points in his last 3 games or something stupid. So he looks to be just fine. They're starting to get a few saves. Stuart Skinner's turning the corner a little bit, and that's all they really needed. And then Saturday you get Connor Bedard. Should be very fun to watch. Every Blackhawks game I've watched, he's been so much fun to watch. So that'll be a fun day inside Canada Life Center. Both these games, by the way, on Ticketmaster, looking pretty good for ticket sales. So we'll see if the building ends up sold out. McDavid and Bedard, if they don't drive ticket sales, I don't know what will. But Monday night,
Sidney Crosby.
yes, good call. And then Monday night, Carolina Hurricanes. The Jets are wearing their Fly the 48 jerseys for the first time this year, which I will say, I said it. I was on Winnipeg Sports Talk on Monday. I'll say it again. Everyone hated those jerseys when they came out, and I did not forget that. And I did not. I like those jerseys. Yeah, I
still don't like them, and I still don't understand that when they played on Remembrance Day, they didn't wear them.
Yeah, and they didn't have camo jerseys. And
whole other set of issues there, but
that we just talked about those issues for 15 minutes. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I think your opinion's going to change, Elliott. After you see him on the ice, come back next week, and you'll hear Elliott change his mind on those jerseys.
We'll have a segment.
I guarantee it. Guarantee it. Anything else?
I mean,
I think that's it.
The biggest thing for me is that McDavid's back.
Yeah, he's all the way back.
Yeah,
just like Nikolai Ehlers
and Connor Hellebuyck. Good to go.
We back.
All right. Well, come back next week after we recap a huge week of games: Oilers, Blackhawks, Hurricanes. Wrap up the homestand. Some big playoff teams. Edmonton, I'm calling them a playoff team. I don't care what their record says. They're a playoff team. They've won 3 straight. They look fine. They're going to make the playoffs. Carolina, been a playoff team in the East. They struggled a little bit recently. They lost to the Lightning like 8-2.
They don't have goaltending.
They don't have goaltending. So that'll be
Antti Ranta let in 8 goals on 14 shots in that game.
Yeah. Brutal. There might be some high scoring games here. Oilers, they can't get a save, but their offense is electric. Chicago's a bad team. Just in general, outside of Bedard. So if Bedard goes for like 2 goals or something, could be cool. And then Monday, Carolina can't get goaltending, but their offense, we know how many shots they put on net. Unless you guys have anything else, let's get out of here. Episode 56 was a fun one. Maybe we ranted a little too long about how much the NHL sucks, but we had to do it.
We spent more time ranting. We were going to talk about our top songs on Spotify, but I don't think we have time for that.
Everyone give their top artist quickly. Brian, go first.
Foo Fighters.
Elliott.
Luke Combs.
Respect. He's like number 5 on my list. My number 1 artist is Travis Scott. Yeah.
I've never been that
shocked about anything in my life.
Yeah.
If you know Connor, you know Travis Scott.
Yeah. It's yeah. Anyways,
okay,
let's get out of here.
What was your number 1 song?
Yeah. It was a Travis Scott song. 100%. Let me find it real quick. You go through your number 1 song while I find it.
My number 1 song was "Misery Business" by Paramore because I honestly don't remember listening to it that much, but great song. And I guess I was just living vicariously through that era of music.
Yep. Elliott, what was your number 1 song?
When It Rains, It Pours, Luke Combs.
Great song.
Shocker.
Great song. My number 1 song was "I Know" by Travis Scott. Again, like you guys are relating way more to our target audience here. I don't think anyone's going to understand. But my number 1 album was Travis Scott. My number 1
you wouldn't understand.
You wouldn't understand. I mean, like if my little brother is listening to this podcast, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, sick." But like, I don't know if my dad's listening, he's not going to be like, "Oh yeah, Travis Scott." Like, it's all about target audience. Don't know.
Yep.
Don't know if I'm relating right now, but I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. Let's get out of here. Super fun week of games coming up. I'm so excited to watch both Connors and then the Carolina Hurricanes and the Jets with their New Jerseys. So come back next week for episode 57, the Elias Salomonsson episode. I'm calling it right now. 57. That's the first thing that came to mind. But yeah, come back next week. Thank you everyone for listening, and follow us on
Not
all
the Tyler
socials
Myers
at-
episode.
Oh no, not Tyler Myers. Please no.
Playoff talk, man.
Anyways.
It's pretty good.
Follow us on all socials at Level Flight WPG. Tell a friend about the Level Flight podcast, and we will see you next week on episode 57. See you.